Gail Goodman. I am the youngest city council person in Pontiac history. And I would love to welcome y'all to my amazing hometown of Pontiac, Michigan. The heart and soul of Oakland County. The center of the colony that put America on wheels. And not only that, we are a strong, working class labor town that will always fight on the side of justice. I am more than happy to have all of you here in this amazing city to hear from some amazing people, including, of course, Congressman Andy Levin, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and of course, our favorite, Senator Bernard Sanders. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say that the reason I'm up here is because of, one, Pontiac's working class roots, and the many people in this crowd who also believe in that. But I'm also up here because we have amazing people in this movement, like those of you in this crowd. Now, some of you may know, unfortunately, that someone who is close and dear to the movement and close and dear to my heart, Sahara Abbas, passed away recently, and she would have loved to be here amongst this crowd of amazing people. She would have loved to be here amongst this energy, amongst this progressive powerhouse energy in this amazing city with all of these amazing people. So what we're going to do is, we're going to make sure that on August 2nd, we kick ass. We make sure that Oakland County and Detroit is represented by progressives who get it. So, I'm not going to keep talking because I do have some time, but I would love to introduce the person after me, one of my most amazing friends, a powerhouse here in Pontiac herself, the chair of the Pontiac Charter Commission, Miss Tamika Ramsey.
Hey y'all. First of all, I want to welcome you to my hometown of Pontiac as well, and thank each and every one of you. So I got a call asking if I could introduce a close personal friend of mine. I met Rashida when she was at the state level. She was fighting for us then. She has done such amazing work, and then she went into the social justice sector and did some amazing work. But what I know Rashida from is just being a woman of color fighting to make sure that her community did not disappear. You know, I normally say I'm just a girl from the east side of Pontiac, and I think I negate my power. And Rashida has taught me that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter who your parents are or where they came from, that this is our America. That black and brown people helped to build this country. Immigrants gave their lives and sacrificed to bring their families here. And what Rashida taught me is that if we give up, then we are letting down the next generation. I see her in DC tired. I see on the media how they beat up on her all the time. But you know what I don't see? I don't see her stopping. I don't see her giving up. I think Rashida has taught all of us that no matter who we are, what we look like, what our past was, what people think we should be able to do, that we have control over ourselves. We have control over this country, and by voting and electing people who share our values, then this country will be great for the first damn time. Normally do this because it's like preaching to the choir, right? Because y'all are here, right? But what we need to do is to get our family and friends motivated. If you know people who are frustrated by how COVID was handled in their communities, it's based on who you elect. They need to know that. If people don't think our kids' school gets enough funding, or that because they live in a certain zip code that their school doesn't get the funding that they need, we have the power. Now I need you to say this with me. I have the power. I have the power. We can't give that up. We can't even let people take it. We have to fight for it, because I'm up here as the most reluctant activist ever. I am a black woman with hair that looks like this, with black children that I have to protect. Every single day that I have to teach my 10-year-old son that the police are and can be his friends, but then he has to see so many times little kids who look like him harmed by those same individuals. It is our job and our responsibility to vote for and elect people no matter what they look like. Because this whole, you need to be a woman to understand woman issues, that's some bull. That is some bull. Right? I see a lot of men out there that know that abortion rights and reproductive justice is a human right. Right? We have some of these white men trying to take it away. Right? This is our right. Right? I have people who are not black fighting just as hard for black people than some of the black people I know. So we're not going to say just because you look like me, you are for me. You know, black people always know your grandmama told you all skin ain't your kin. Same here. We cannot continue to elect people based on how they look or what their last name is without doing the work. We need to know who's running, what their platform is. And once again, we have to continue to support individuals like my friend who has sacrificed time with her babies, that has sacrificed her own safety at times, because she was there on January 6th. She gets attacked all the time for being anti this and anti that. But all I know is the Rashida, that is my friend, that has helped me when nobody else did, helped me before she got into Congress, and will continue to help me. So I just want to make sure that y'all all know how amazing and beautiful this wonderful soul is, and we have to support and protect her just like we have to do Andy and just like we have to do Bernie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What up? I am so, of course, all this could happen just right at this moment. I'm super excited to be with all of you. How are you, Pontiac? I want to thank Tamika so much. She's a true fighter. Many of you know her as a strong advocate for not only the people of Pontiac, but for communities across the state of Michigan. I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for spending this day on her birthday. I don't know, they're ushering something at me. Thank you. So I'm so honored to share space with all of you tonight with the Ammo Bernie and my good friend, a union champion, the only candidate that is supporting Medicare for all in this district. He is Representative Andy Levin. Before we celebrate coming together to fight for a movement that puts people first, that puts them before profit, of course this continues to happen. Thank you, Russia. That's her name. Okay, is that what they're saying? Thank you, thank you. She always saves me. But I do want to take a moment, y'all, because our progressive movement lost an incredible warrior. I'm going to get too emotional. Yesterday, we lost Zahra Abbas. Her heart was full of love for community, and there wasn't a cause that she did not take on. She took it on 100%. Many of you don't know, but Zahra lived with epilepsy. She's one of our biggest advocates for healthcare and access to alternative approaches, including the use of cannabis. Zahra became the chair of the Cannabis Caucus for the Michigan Democratic Party, and she never gave up the fight. She will be sorely missed. I know that she is with us today. So if you can, please join me in a moment of silence on behalf of Zahra Abbas. I'm gonna miss you, sis. Thank you so much, everyone. I am so humbled to be with all of you in this journey that I've started, being the child of Palestinian immigrant parents. That's right, baby. My father, who had dropped out of 4th grade, my mother, who only reached 8th grade education, they came to the United States for something better, for something that seemed impossible at the time. My dad's first job, y'all, was at the Ford Assembly Plant in Flat Rock, Michigan. What he said to me is that when he joined the UAW, it was the first time that he ever felt, human dignity in the workplace. You see, my dad knew. He knew it didn't matter what his education level was, his income or faith or ethnicity. He said when everyone was on that auto assembly line, they were equal. They were brothers, sisters, they were partners. Because in this world where corporate greed is allowed to dehumanize, exploit people, extract, there is a struggle to fully be seen and thrive. That's why it is important to again have people that put us before corporate greed and profit. I know when I walked on the House floor for the first time, they weren't ready, y'all. They weren't ready for me. I understand though, it wasn't just about me, it's about all of us. Because when I walk on that floor, you all are all behind me. Meaningful change in our country only happens when we demand it and when we speak truth. It's about leading with compassion and with unflinching belief that every person deserves to live, deserves a good life, a life with dignity and comfort, regardless of what you look like or where you've been born or what you believe. We know that we are worth so much more than any Fortune 500 company or billionaire. And that people, all of us, should not only be able to survive, but we should be able to thrive, y'all. And it shouldn't be this hard. I'm here from our amazing neighboring 12th Congressional District, which I lovingly call Tenacious 12. And I'm telling you, the billionaire class and their wealthy CEOs are scared. They are scared because we are winning with no signs of letting up. I don't care if it's the strikes, the marches, those that keep pushing back. We're going to continue to speak truth even when our voice shakes. And they are scared because we are demanding that they pay their fair share in taxes so that we can fund quality public education, paid leave, Medicare for all, student loan forgiveness, real climate action, and ending child poverty in our country once and for all. And they are scared because we are holding corporate polluters accountable, and we are pushing for the Green New Deal. Because dismantle the racist and discriminatory structures that have been used to divide us up and leaving communities of color behind, criminalized, exploited. They are scared because we have masses of people power. I hope you believe it. They don't get to continue to profit off of our pain, our struggle. Not anymore, and not on our watch. The legendary Detroit activist Grace Lee Boggs said that transformative change didn't happen because of a bill introduced in Congress, y'all. Or by the grace of someone sitting in the White House. It starts with us, in the streets, in our communities, building movements right here, on the ground, hand in hand with people directly impacted by the injustices and our allies. When you are rooted in community, you know in your bones that doing nothing isn't an option. That throwing your hands up and saying that change we deserve is impossible. Change isn't good enough. No. When they said we couldn't get the assault weapons ban passed in the House, guess what? We did that today, and me and Congressman Andy Levin voted for it. And we're not done. We're going to keep pushing until we pass it out of the Senate. In a country, in a world increasingly dominated by corporate greed, which is a disease that is killing us, where too many elected officials seek office to serve the rich and themselves, our bonds, our compassion with each other are more important than ever now. You know, I have to thank Amo Bernie. When my head is down and I'm like, Amo, they don't get it. It's like they're on a different timeline. And he's like, listen, when I got onto the Senate floor, I'm a labor organizer, Rashida. When you get on the floor of the House, you're still a community organizer. Don't forget that. I'm incredibly blessed to have his partnership, his vision, his inspiration every single day. And of course, my friend Andy. This is a person that truly sees and hears me. And you have no idea what that feels like, to have someone always understanding where your heart is. And I'm here because of all of you believing in the possibility of someone like me serving in the United States Congress. I'm never going to sell you all out. Never, ever. You all are on the ground doing the work, giving us credibility. And we in the will in the halls of Congress. When we're sitting there beating the drum and saying people are dying, you're out here telling them exactly what is happening, the pain on the ground. In a place where many listen to lobbyists and CEOs, we instead listen and work for you. Always. That fear of our people power is costly for the rich, y'all. Out of state billionaires and dark money super PACs are pumping obscene amounts of money into our districts. They're trying to come here and tell us what to think. This includes the 11th and the 12th, where out-of-town millionaires and billionaires are trying to sway the minds of our neighbors. They are running misleading ads, mailers full of lies, and nasty social media ads. I don't know about them, it just makes me want to work harder. I've heard from my neighbors in the 12th, day after day, who say enough. We are not going to let anyone come into our communities and tell us how to vote and try to pit us against each other. That's why it is so incredibly important that we come together today. Not only today and in this election, but each and every day. It's not just about voting, y'all. I need you to go out voting plus. I need you to be doing the work in the communities. You continue to fight for what's right. You never walk away from your values. And that inspires me every single day. I want to thank my friend Andy Levin for his partnership home in Washington as well as in Washington, D.C. Andy is a true fighter for the people. I've seen him. He's a labor champion, a climate champion, and a justice champion. And And again, he is the only candidate who is unapologetically supporting Medicare for all. It is so crucial that we both head back to Congress to speak truth, to finish the work that we started, and send a clear message to the billionaires that we aren't going anywhere. But you all know we got to get to work. You all know this. That's why you're here. We cannot just leave any block party, neighborhood block party rally or anything like this and go out there and not actually put the work into it. And I'm telling you, the direct human contact, you talking to your family members, to your neighbors, is powerful. People don't understand. It's not lawn signs and billboards and these ads. It's when you're talking to people, connecting with them. People understand that is so powerful. That's what we got. We have 4 days to send the message. And I'll tell you, we must work our circles, our block, our families. I want you to think about 10 people. I know you get this all the time, but I know you got it. I'm the eldest of 14. I got a big block, and I got to work them every single election. Yes, texting them, calling them. Tell them whether you're, and it doesn't matter. You got to understand that sometimes they're waiting to be asked. They're waiting to hear that they're needed to come out. And when you call them and said, we need you, they come out. We know we have more people than they have money. We know that people power movements continue to win against dark money. We've seen it over and over again, you all. We know that we have courage in the face of fear from the billionaires and CEOs, because we, Andy, Bernie, and I, and so many, are unbought and unafraid. And I know we're unbought and unafraid because, folks, we're on a different timeline. Y'all don't have another year. You don't have another day, you don't have another week to have meaningful change in your lives. We are on a path toward justice and ability for everyone to thrive. So they need to really, honestly, they need to get out of my way so I can get to work. I'm proud to announce that I am Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. I am unapologetically a fighter for the people. And I gotta tell you, I plan on kicking some hedge fund billionaire ass on Tuesday. How many of you want to join me? I'm ready. Let's send the message. Let's do this, because we matter, not profits, not these stock buybacks. We matter. Our lives are at stake here. And I cannot again extend to you all. You all inspire me every single day. Every single day I walk in there more fierce and more fearlessness, because you all believe in the possibility of better. Thank you so much.
Let me hear you. All right, I got a couple questions for you. Who here believes in morals over money? Let me hear you. Who here believes in democracy over dollars? Let me hear you. Who here believes in people over profit? That is why we're here today. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. You may remember me from a run for governor. Now, I grew up not 15 minutes down there. Just 15 minutes. And those of you who know the geography of the Metro Detroit area know the absurd level of inequity that exists if you just go 15 miles south on Woodward. Now, as a kid growing up, you think that that's just happenstance. Or worse, you're told that that's because of some differential in talent or some differential in will to work. But instead, it is a function of a rigged system, a rigged economy, and a rigged democracy. We are here today to stand with three candidates who recognize that we have a responsibility to unrig that democracy, unrig that economy, and unrig our country. My family immigrated to this country from Egypt believing that this was a place where everyone had opportunities. Until they realized that actually, no, that was not actually the case. But for me, I would travel 15 hours and I'd spend my summers with my grandmother, my Teta Suad. Wisest, most intelligent person you've ever met, never got to go to school. She lost 2 of her babies of 8 to whom she gave birth before the age of 1. Personal infant mortality rate of 25%. Now, I didn't have the language to talk about it at the time, but in those 15 hours, I traveled 10 years difference in life expectancy. But here's the thing. I didn't have to go 15 hours, I could go 15 minutes. We're here today because we know that the antidote to that is going to be a democracy that is empowered, built by people. Not the money of large corporate donors, not the money of super PACs, not the money of the folks who want to buy our economy and buy our politics. It is going to be because we the people stand up and take that democracy back. The question of our politics is about 2 things. Number 1, who are we? And number 2, who do we want to be? Do we want to be in America where healthcare corporations pocket 15 cents on the dollar for every dollar we spend to heal, where they literally monetize the bodies of the sick? Or do we want an America where we finally stand up and declare that we need and we deserve Medicare for all? Do we want to be in America? Will children in low-income communities like Flint or Detroit or Pontiac are continuously exposed to the lead that sits in their water, sits in their walls? Or do we want to be in America where we stand up and declare that we need and deserve environmental justice? Do we want to be in America where oil and gas corporations continue to have their way with our air and our water and our land? Or do we want to be in America where we stand up and we say we will lead on the climate crisis? Do we want to be in America where democracy exists on television? Or do we want to be in America where democracy exists in these streets? We're here today because of 2 candidates for Congress that animates our vision of America. They're 2 candidates who've stood up and proudly declared their support for Medicare for all, stood up and proudly declared their support for a Green New Deal, stood up and proudly declared that they will not take the corrupting corporate money that has decimated our democracy. They've stood up for an America where the super PACs and the CEOs no longer get to dictate who gets elected to public office, but rather the people dictate who gets elected to public office. There are 2 candidates who recognize that justice doesn't mean just us, that justice doesn't end at our borders, that we cannot stand up for human dignity only when those humans carry a particular citizenship documentation, but that justice and equity and human rights have to mean that we extend those moral ideals beyond our own borders. They recognize the human rights of the Palestinian people. They recognize the human rights of people who are being abused across this country. They recognize that we owe it to have a humane and just immigration system, not one that punishes people simply because of the documents they carry, but dignifies them because who they are as people. Now look, I've heard what they're saying. I've heard what they're telling us. They want to tell us that it's already been decided, that they've spent so much money on the airways. There's no way you can win. Don't you know that it comes down to PAC spending? Well, I tell them today, and you tell them today, that it's not about PAC spending, it is about people, and the people are on our side. But here's what I want you all to remember. It is not simply about money. It's not even about time. It's about people. It's about how much of ourselves we are willing to put into that time. Now, you've heard the name Zahra Abbas a couple of times today. Zahra was one of those people who you just knew would be standing right there in a crowd like this. She was someone who took her own pain. She lived with epilepsy, debilitating seizure disorder. She took her pain and she used it to bring people together, to fight for all of the things that she herself was denied, recognizing that it could have been anyone else. And she took of that pain and decided to make that world that much better. Now here's the thing. Zahra didn't have very much time. But Zahra put all of herself in the time she had. So what I'm asking you today to do is to dignify that example and to put all of yourself in the time that we have. Because all that we love, all that we believe in is on the line here today. So if you can make one more phone call, make that phone call. If you can send one more text spray to all your friends, send that text. If you can go out there and knock on another door, knock on that door. If you can have one more conversation with an undecided voter, have that conversation. Put everything you have into the time you have. That is what it means to put ourselves into our democracy. That is what a democracy of people actually looks like. So today, it is my honor, it is my privilege to introduce somebody who in a room or outside on these streets needs no introduction. I met Andy Levin when he was running for Congress and I was running for governor. And the thing about Andy Levin is that it would have been easy for him to just say what he was supposed to say, to read the talking points. But Andy didn't do that. Andy realized that it would not be worth it to have a seat in Congress if that seat in Congress was just going to do what anybody else would have done with it. Andy recognized that that seat in Congress was an opportunity to fight for the democracy he believes in. It's a democracy you and I believe in. It is a democracy that includes all of us, independent of who we are, where we come from, who our parents are, how we pray, who we love, how do we identify. It is a democracy that says that it is not about dollars, it is about us. It is not about profits, it is about people. It is not about money, it is about morals. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our current congressman, our future congressman, Congressman Andy Levin.
Hello, Pontiac. Hello, new 11th District. Hello, new 12th District. All right, let's give it up for this amazing, everybody who's been on this amazing program. The youngest elected official in the history of Pontiac, Mikkel Goodman. The birthday girl, Tamika Ramsey. My sister, Rashida Tlaib, my sister in struggle. Yeah, this is amazing. So, let's have a conversation. What do you think? Should we have a congressperson who's going to represent 62% of Oakland County and probably 75% of the Democrats, who's committed? Let's not have the district office in West Bloomfield, love West Bloomfield, Farmington Hills, love Farmington Hills, Bloomfield Township where I live, Ferndale. Let's have the district office in downtown Pontiac. Let's let people from Pontiac walk in and get help from their congressperson. So let's talk about a few issues. Let's talk about health care. Can we, you know what, screw those 6 people on the Supreme Court. Is abortion care health care? Is abortion care a fundamental human right? Rashida and I put our bodies down in front of the Supreme Court last week. We all may have to be doing some of that. We all may have to do some of that. How mad are we that they took a right away, a fundamental human right we've had for 50 years? We shouldn't have to, but aren't we going to do whatever it takes to let women have autonomy over their own bodies and their own decisions? Everybody who can have a baby have autonomy over their own bodies? All right, and let's talk about health care more broadly. Yeah, my opponent, she's been for Medicare for All. In 2018, when she ran for Congress, she had a primary with a bunch of other Democrats. She was for Medicare for All. But as soon as she won her primary, oops, she's been against Medicare for All ever since. Okay, y'all, I'm just going to tell you something. What you see is what you get. I'm for Medicare for All forever until we win it. Until we win it. All right, can we talk about workers in this country? To me, there's no chance we're going to rebuild the middle class in this country until every worker in this country is free to form a union just because they darn well please. So I spent much of my life helping workers form unions with SEIU, with all of our unions when I was with the AFL-CIO. And we've got a bill called the PRO Act that we're going to pass to restore the freedom to form unions. But hold on, there's a little story. A little story I only learned last week. When we passed the PRO Act in the last Congress, we got it through the Education and Labor Committee. And then my opponent went to the Rules Committee and proposed an amendment to the PRO Act, to our new labor law reform bill. And what did this amendment say? It said instead of using the ABC test to make sure everybody can form a union, let's have a GAO study and basically prevent gig workers from being able to form a union. 56 million workers excluded from the PRO Act. Look, my opponent takes max-out checks from Bezos. I organize delegations of congressional colleagues to go down to Bessemer, Alabama and stand with Amazon workers. Who do you want? And then we passed the Raise the Wage Act. That would be $15 an hour for everybody with no sub-minimum wages anymore in this country, for tipped workers. Who are tipped workers? They're everybody, but you know, there are way more women, and disproportionately women of color. It's a vestige of Jim Crow. Let's get rid of sub-minimum wages altogether. One fair wage. Okay, but again, when we were working in the committee on this, my opponent, we actually had to stop our process, and our wonderful chairman of the Education Labor Committee called us out into the ante-room. Oops, somebody was going to vote for the Republican amendments, and he had to count noses to make sure we had enough people to defeat the Republican amendments. My opponent was that person. She voted for 2 Republican amendments that would have killed the Raise the Wage Act in the whole Congress. Let's elect real champions for working people. Living wages for everybody. All right. What about this planet? We've only got one. We got one planet. We've got outrageous floods in Missouri. We got 100 degrees in Portland, Oregon. It's not supposed to get that hot in the Pacific Northwest. We've got forest fires, supercharged storms. Do we know yet that global warming is an existential threat to this planet? Do we know that so many species might go extinct? We don't talk about that enough. That's another big problem. We've got to take aggressive, immediate, comprehensive action to save life on Earth as we know it on this planet. And I was out on the lawn when we launched the Green New Deal. Now Rashida and I are 2 of just 27, and Bernie are 3 of just 27 senators and representatives who are on all 10 Green New Deal bills. And I wrote one of them with Elizabeth Warren, the Build Green Act, to electrify transportation, mass transit, high-speed rails, city feet, school buses, city buses. Come on. That's great jobs. That's great union jobs. I think a lot of people, when they hear the Green New Deal, they only hear the green part. They say, oh, my opponent said that's pie in the sky. She's not for the Green New Deal. She wants real legislation. Well, what do you think we've been doing the last 3 years? We've been writing real bills to transform our economy. So we need action now. Now let's talk about education. Let's talk about education. Okay. Who can afford to go to college anymore? Anybody out there have student loan debt? Whoa! Okay, listen. I wrote the America's College Promise Act to make study at community colleges and HBCUs for 2 years each free. Free, no tuitions, no fees. Let's let people get the education they need. Let's let people should be able to get great training right out of high school if they want. Let's have apprenticeship. Let's have job training. Let's have all different paths. But let's not bury people in debt. All public colleges should be free. Don't you think? Okay. So then there's another little difference in my campaign. You talk about student loan debt. You know what? Back in the day when they talked about consumer debt, that wasn't even on a thing, right? Mortgages, auto loans, right? Credit card debt. That was the big thing. Now there's $17 trillion of student loan debt. And my opponent hasn't decided what she's for. Anyway, I know what I'm for. Let's cancel $50,000 of student loan debt for everybody. That's a gender justice issue. It's a racial justice issue. 60% of all student loan debt is held by women. And people of color, after the term is expired, still have the vast majority of debt on the books because of all that interest and all those penalties and all those fees. Let's free people from that so they can start a family, buy a house, start a business, live their damn life in America, get their piece of the American dream. All right. And Abdul spoke so eloquently about human rights. Let's start about human rights right here in America. Can we take on structural racism in this country? Can we just be honest about it? Can we pass Jamal Bowman, my colleague's bill, the African American Education Act, so we can tell the truth about our history in our schools? Can we end qualified immunity for cops who do bad things? Come on. Right now, my opponent is backing a bill by Josh Gottheimer to give police departments a lot more money with no accountability. Have we learned nothing? You can't be shooting someone who's running away 60 times in their back, right? We need accountability. We need to take on racism in education, in housing, in the economy, in criminal justice. We need to end mass incarceration. That's what we need to do. But let's talk about human rights all over the world. I'm on the Education and Labor Committee, and I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I can't even believe I'm in Congress. But the idea that I got to get these two assignments, I spent a lot of my life helping workers organize and on education and job training, and I spent a lot of my life doing human rights work in Haiti, for Tibetans, elsewhere in China, in India, all over the world. And so I can't believe I have this assignment. But some people think that we worry too much about human rights, and we should only talk about human rights for some people. One group has spent $4.2 million to try to defeat me because I stand for a simple proposition. The only way to have a secure, peaceful homeland for the Jewish people, for my people, is to fully achieve the political and human rights of the Palestinian people. And I will not back down. And you know what freaks them out the most about this? Is that my position comes from my Jewish values. That's right. My position comes straight from the Torah, which says, love the other, love the stranger as yourself, treat the other, treat the stranger as yourself. Let me ask you something. Who's the most important stranger for the Jewish people? It's the Palestinian people, our cousins. Let's learn to live together and love each other. And there are a lot of other human rights problems in the world, and they don't get enough attention. Somebody from Syria grabbed me today and said, I was in a mosque. He said, what is your position on Syria? We can't forget that dictatorship. We can't let dictators continue to destroy their own people. Look at what Saudi Arabia is doing, prosecuting a war in Yemen, blockades, starvation. I'm sorry, I love President Biden, but please don't go visit MBS. Please don't do that. That was wrong. For some more oil, why don't we just turbocharge, I guess that's an oil term. Okay, I'm still using it. Why don't we turbocharge our transition to renewable energy so we're not beholden to petro-dictators anymore? Right? These problems are hard. Abdul is from Egypt. I don't know how many of us are in the Egypt Human Rights Caucus. It's not very many. But we fight for human rights in Egypt. The El-Sisi regime is horrible. They imprison thousands of people. And we passed something in Congress that said if they don't meet human rights conditions, then we have to withhold, I think it was $370 million of aid. And the Biden administration found that they weren't complying, and they withheld like $160 million. We were like, dang, that wasn't optional choice. That wasn't multiple choice. We said don't give them the money. Don't give them all that money, because they are violating the rights of their own people. So whether it's Burma or China or all the way over here to Haiti in the Western Hemisphere, where I started a Haiti caucus to fight for the rights of Haitian people, we must stand up for human rights everywhere. So, human rights and foreign policy, probably the biggest single question we have to answer, the biggest single decision we make every year is how much money should we spend on the military? How should we have a military first foreign policy? Should we focus our efforts on answering every question with a tank and a gun? I forget exactly what the Pentagon asked for this year, but Congress said that's not enough. People fall all over themselves to say, I'll give you more money than the next person. They might have asked for $800 billion. We voted for $839 billion for the military this year. I'm for America having the strongest military in the world, but you know what? Let's lead with diplomacy. Let's lead with human rights. So, every year, several weeks ago, and every year, I take a vote of conscience. I vote against the National Defense Authorization Act. I vote against all that huge money for the military. Only 80 people do that, or 85. Can you all get me more progressives here and throughout the United States so we can transform our foreign policy? All right, so look. We've got 4 days here in Michigan's new 11th district. And I'm being outspent 5-1. And most of that money isn't money my opponent raised in her campaign. Most of it is outside, dark money spent. And where does it come from? It comes mostly from Republicans. And not just any, it's not like $5 and $10. This is billionaires putting in $1 million and $2 million a pop. So here's the fundamental question, really, of this primary, right here, right now, standing in Pontiac. Are we going to let these billionaires, people like Paul Singer, who ruined AT&T and helped send a lot of great middle-class jobs overseas there, or Bernie Marcus, the co-founder of Home Depot, a huge union buster, are we going to let them decide who the next congressperson for the new 11th district is? We can win, as Rashida said, and as Abdul said, let's win with people power. You've got 4 days to talk to every neighbor, every coworker, every cousin, and let's get out there and crush the billionaires and win. All right, so, look, they asked me to introduce our next speaker. I'm getting mixed signals. All right, I guess our next speaker isn't quite here yet. All right, can I complain to you all? Does anybody else ever try to fly in this country? No, seriously. Let's talk about our economy and the concentration of power in every industry in just a few companies. How many big airlines do we have now? 4 or 5? How much money did we give these airlines during the pandemic to save their butts? Billions of dollars. And what did we get for it? Flight delays, cancellations. Our next speaker, I'm made to keep talking because our next speaker's flight was delayed for hours. He wasn't trying to get here at the last minute. These flights are delayed for hours. So don't you think that Congress needs to have a whole new era of antitrust activism? Did anybody take Econ 101? What did you learn? You learned that, there's 30 shops all making the same aprons. And if you raise your price, I'll go buy from over there. Or if you have a little bit better quality, I'll buy from you, right? That's not American capitalism. We've got a few companies controlling every market, and it's outrageous. Let's fix it. All right, so now I have the green light for the fun I wanted to have. So listen. All right, I'm going to ask. answered each of these questions. Who's the greatest champion of the American working class? Who holds corporate America accountable better than anybody else? Who brings more vision to creating the beautiful world we know we must create? Here's the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders.
Let me apologize to you for being late and apologize that I'm going to have to leave early. But that is what the airline industry is about today. They make a lot of money, but their service is not so good. But anyhow, I am delighted to be here with you to tell you that it is absolutely imperative we do everything we can in the next several days to re-elect Andy Levin and Rashida Tlaib. And I'm here to support them, A, because these are outstanding members of the Congress who every day are fighting for the rights of working families and are prepared to take on powerful special interests. But in addition to that, I am here to ask the people of Michigan to understand that there is something profoundly wrong in our political system when a handful of billionaires, through their super PACs, can spend millions of dollars trying to defeat progressive candidates for Congress. That is not what democracy is about. That is what oligarchy is about. And I would urge people in Andy's district, in Rashida's district, even if you don't agree with everything that they are trying to do, understand that we cannot allow billionaires to buy elections. That is what this campaign is about. And why are they willing? Not only here in Michigan, they're doing it in Texas, they did it in Pennsylvania, they're doing it all across in Ohio, all across this country. They're spending tens of millions of dollars because they know that Andy and Rashida are prepared to stand up to corporate greed. And I could give you a million examples, but let me give you one. While all of us here in Michigan and in Vermont pay outrageously high prices for gas at the pump, just this last quarter, Shell, Exxon, and Chevron made $46 billion in profits. And it's the same in the food industry, it's the same in the airlines industry. They are making huge profits, and working people are paying more and more for the basic necessities of life. And we need members of Congress to tell the billionaire class, to tell the CEOs of these large corporations that they cannot have it all. I want to tell you something that you're not going to see on TV tonight. And that is, you increasingly are living in an oligarchy. Do you all know what oligarchy means? All right, again, this is something we don't talk about on the floor of the Senate. We don't talk about it on CBS or NBC or Fox. Oligarchy is when 3 people in America own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Oligarchy is about 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. Oligarchy is about CEOs making 350 times what their workers make. Oligarchy is the very rich getting richer while tens of thousands of American workers have died going to work during this terrible pandemic. Oligarchy is about the fact that in the last 30 years, we've seen a massive transfer of wealth going from the middle class and working class to the top 1%. Oligarchy is about the fact that the average American worker today has seen no increase in his or her wages over the last 50 years. So you're seeing an increase in productivity, all kinds of new technology, and yet working people in many cases are worse off today than they were 50 years ago. Our job right now is to create a political movement, to build the trade union movement, to build grassroots activism. Our job is to bring our people together to create an economy that works for all, not just the people on top. All over the world, in every major industrialized country, healthcare is a human right. I am sick and tired of insurance companies making billions a year in profit when 70 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured, and we spend twice as much per person on healthcare as the people of other nations. And Andy and Rashida will join me in fighting for a Medicare for all single-payer program. No deductibles, no co-payments, no premiums. Healthcare is a human right. And Andy and Rashida will work with me to end the absurdity of billionaires in this country and large corporations not paying a nickel in federal income tax. And Rashida and Andy will work with me to reform what is in fact a corrupt political system. We've got to overturn Citizens United. We need to move to public funding of elections. And Andy and Rashida will work with me to understand that if in Germany and in Scandinavia, higher education is tuition free, we can do the same in the United States. And by the way, it is time to cancel all student debt in this country. Look, the issue facing us is not hard to understand. And that is, we need an economy and we need a political system that works for all, not just the few. And what Andy's campaign is about, and it's an historical campaign, is the billionaire class is saying, we own this country, we own the political system, and we will not tolerate dissent. Either you work for us or get out of here. And Andy has chosen not to work for them. But when you're taking on folks who spend many, many millions of dollars putting stupid ads on television, it's hard. And as I said earlier, we had the same. And by the way, if you think these super PACs and the billionaires who contribute give a damn about the people in Michigan or Detroit, you would be absolutely mistaken. They could care less about you. They run the same damn ads in Pittsburgh, in Ohio, in Texas, same thing. They don't care about the people. All they want to do is defeat progressive members of Congress and progressive candidates. So this election is particularly important. It's important because Andy, based on his work, deserves to be reelected. Rashida deserves to be reelected. But it is equally important, in saying that the people of Michigan have got to tell these billionaires and their corporate PACs they cannot buy our democracy. And the last point that I want to make is this: what these super PACs are saying they think it's about Israel has nothing to do, in my view, with Israel. It is simply trying to defeat candidates and members of Congress who stand for working families and are prepared to demand that the wealthy and large corporations pay their fair share of taxes. So brothers and sisters, you got a few days left. And it is terribly important that you go out, bring your friends, your family, your co-workers out to vote. We can win this thing. We can return Andy and Rashida to Congress. We have got to do that, and with your help, we will. Thank you all very much.